friends, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to the last day of Bookmas. We have a little bit of a different setup. My books aren't behind me today, and that is okay. Today's video is all about wrapping up the year. So I'm going to go through all the stats that Goodreads has, and then I'm going to tell you every book that I read in 2021. I read 77,718 pages last year, which was 243 books. My shortest book was Poems by Rumi, which was 64 pages. And I remember reading that for a kind of a mystery book reading thing. So I made a vlog with that, and I think there was one other book that we read in that vlog. I'll link it up here. My longest book was Dean Koontz' Strangers, 681 pages. The average length of my books were 319 pages. The most popular book that I read was Animal Farm by George Orwell, and my least popular book was A Girl's Best Friend by Iris Foster, with only 13 people shelving that book. My average rating was 3.4 stars. The highest rated book on Goodreads that I read was The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas, which makes a lot of sense to me. My first review of the year was Crazy by Amy Reed, which was a 5-star book for me. For the second portion of this video, I'm just going to tell you the name of the book that I read and pop a picture right over here, and probably the author. I might give you like one very quick synopsis or summary of them, but there are 243 books here, so I'm going to try and go through this as quick as I can. Editing Alita, I know you are going to love me. Shout out to her because she has to do all the pictures right here. So good job. You did good, girl. If I look over here, it's because my computer's right here. So I am just reading off my computer screen. The History of Food in 101 Objects by Media Lab. It's literally the history of food with different objects that some we use in the kitchen, some we don't. But at one point or another, we did use them in the kitchen or to cook with. I Killed Zoe Sapanos by Kit Frick. This was a really fun podcast murder mystery. And you follow this missing teenager who you don't know if she's dead or alive or what happened to her. And I loved it. Crazy by Amy Reed has the best bipolar representation that I've ever read. If you have more bipolar rep books, please leave them in the comments below. I would like to read all of them. And Crazy is also told through letters, which is so much fun. My Best Friend's Exorcism and Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. I read a lot of Grady Hendrix this year. My Best Friend's Exorcism is kind of like a Possession in the 80s vibes, and slasher. I really enjoyed that one. Horror Store was kind of weird, and I don't know how else to explain Horror Store, so that's what you're gonna get. Call Me Maybe is an Audible original that was just a super sweet romance over the phone. Suicide Notes by Michael Thomas Ford. glorifies suicide, so please don't read it, especially if you are someone who is suffering or thinking about suicide. Don't read this book to help you. Read something like By the Time You Read This, I'll Be Dead by Julianne Peters, or Suicide Notes from Beautiful Girls. I'll put pictures of both of them up here. Please read something better than Suicide Notes. The Night Olivia Fell by Christina McDonald. This follows a mom who is investigating what happened to her daughter to make her go into this coma. False Memory by Dean Koontz. I don't really remember. Cross Her Heart by Sarah Pinborough. Didn't like the way this book went. Then there's Soul Survivor by Dean Koontz, which is my favorite Dean Koontz besides the Odd Thomas series. Nothing beats the Odd Thomas series, but Soul Survivor is about this plane crash, and this guy several years later is trying to figure out what happened to his daughter and his wife, and you find out that maybe they didn't die in the plane crash like he thought. The Troop by Nick Cutter is body horror galore. 10 by Gretchen McNeil was a fun young adult slasher in which these teenagers go out to party and slashery things happen. Along with Clown in a Cornfield by Adam Caesar, this is another young adult slasher about a clown trying to kill off teenagers in a cornfield. The List by Savone Vivian. It was kind of a generic young adult novel. One Was Lost by Natalie D. Richards is Real World Survival, which was one of my favorite things. That has kind of a twist in there, which I enjoyed. Love, Life, and the List by Casey West was just a feel-good young adult romance, but more than that, it was a coming-of-age novel. Talking as Fast as I Can by Lori Graham. Just her memoir about working on Gilmore Girls and Parenthood and finding her husband, and it was just really enjoyable. The Cousins by Karen M. McManus. I feel like this is my favorite Karen M. McManus book, and I've read all of them except for her new release. There's In 5 Years by Rebecca Surley. Go into this one very blind because I read the synopsis on the back and I was expecting time travel and magic, and there's like a sprinkle of magic, but it was done very well. All the Water in the World by Karen Rainey. I believe this has something to do with the main character that has cancer. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab, which was a book that I said I would never read. Well, you read it. You loved it. It's historical fiction, fantasy. It is the most lonely and isolating book to read, but it's also very hopeful and hauntingly beautiful. The Broken Girls by Simone St. James, which Simone St. James is the queen of Dual Timeline. I also read The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James this year, and both of them have a dual timeline in which you are investigating. In The Broken Girls, you are investigating what happened to her sister, and in The Sundown Motel, she's investigating what happened to her aunt, and you follow both perspectives. So I love that. It was so atmospheric and dark for both of them. By Older Girls by Rory Power is yet another body horror galore. Stamped by Jason Reynolds and Ibram X. Kennedy. This is a nonfiction book about racism. And When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. I originally read this and didn't think it was that much of a horror book. I think it's more of a romance, but after letting it sit with me for a little while, it's like a very slow burn horror. Like the scene in the Uber, just that one stuck with me. And if you've read it, you know. If you don't know, then go read it. The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. I just don't jive well with Lucy Foley's work. Then there's Emma in the Night by Wendy Walker. This one was only okay for me. It's like this dark thriller in which these two sisters go missing, and Emma and Cass, and only one of them returned. Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. I found adult romance this year, and Christina Lauren has become one of my favorites, but this one is like these two friends. They were friends in high school, and now they're in college, and now they kind of met again, and they're trying to set each other up on dates, but each time they go home with each other and the dates didn't work out. Luckiest Girl Alive by Jessica Knoll, reality TV thriller. The Deep by Rivers Solomon. This is a sci-fi mermaid take. It does talk about racism and things like that. I just don't think it did it very well. The Night Swim by Megan Golding is a great podcast thriller. It also is kind of like a legal thriller because a lot of it takes place in the courtroom. The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson is a classic haunted house book. Girl, Wash Your Face by Rachel Hollis, self-help book, but I really don't recommend anything by Rachel Hollis. She's not a very good person. The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman was a fantasy weird book. 17th Summer by Maureen Daly. I didn't realize, but it's a classic, kind of like a romance, but kind of like a family drama. People Like Us by Dana Mill. This is a secret society, boarding school, murder, mystery, dark academia vibes. Monster by Walter Dean Myers was about this kid that gets incarcerated just because of the color of his skin. The book was written like a play, kind of, and I get the message and I appreciate the message, but I don't think the execution on this book was there. Then there's Cake Rex and Love Poems by Rumi. I read both of those for this mystery book unboxing or unwrapping reading vlog, and they were both fine. We Are the Ashes, We Are the Fire by Joy McCauley. You follow this girl who gets raped. You follow her sister during the courtroom proceedings, and she kind of gets into this drawing, and the drawings and the book inside the book kind of take over from the story. I would have really liked to see what her sister was going through because she's the one that got raped. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. I've heard this hyped everywhere. It's this fantasy adventure type of book. I didn't care for it though. The Passenger by Lisa Lutz. You follow this woman who is on the run after her husband dies. I read The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager 3 times this year. So this Riley Sager's writing is always very dark and atmospheric, and this one's more of a mystery of what happened to these girls during summer camp like 15 years ago, and now Emma, the only one that nothing happened to, is going back to investigate what happened to her friends. Lady in the Lake by Laura Lippman. This follows a dead woman, like she is your narrator. Bro Code by Matt Kuhn, or Barney Stinson. I mean, yeah, I read it because he narrated it for me and just felt like we were best friends, and he was telling me how to be the best friend that I can be. House Rules by Jodi Picoult. This is about an autistic main character who is obsessed with crime, like true crime, and the police think that he has something to do with a murder. The Night Gardener by Jonathan Uxler. This was a really fun middle grade. Along with The Magic Misfits by Neil Patrick Harris. And this one with the book has riddles in it that you have to figure out. And I liked The Magic Misfits more than The Night Gardener. Island of the Blue Dolphin by Scott Odell. The Collector by K.P. Alexander. Those are forgettable middle grades. Then The Tea Dragon Society by Kay O'Neill. Was super duper cute. It's this graphic novel in which you learn about dragons. Isle of the Lost by Melissa de la Cruz was the first in the Descendants series. I don't think I'm going to continue with the series, but it was a fun look at the villains of Disney. The Fortunes of Indigo Sky by Deb Calatini and Lucky in Love by Casey West are both about this girl that wins a lottery or gets a big tip and spends a bunch of money and is very irresponsible with said money because they're teenagers, and I really didn't like either of them. Save the Date, Amy and Roger's Epic Detour, and Since You've Been Gone, all by Morgan Matson, which I really enjoyed all of them. I have to say that Since You've Been Gone is my favorite. You Only Love Me When I'm Suffering by John Lupin, the Poetry Bandit. It was just some poetry. It was kind of generic, honestly. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark and Everything You Need to Know About Nightmares and How to Defeat Them. They're both scary middle grades. They were fine. Her by Pierce Alex Gentney is a book of poetry that really spoke to my soul. Runaway by Harlan Coben was my first Harlan Coben and my most favorite. It's about this dad who goes trying to search for his daughter who has kind of gone down the rabbit hole of drugs. The Cheerleaders by Kara Thomas was a fun young adult thriller. Story of a Girl by Sarah Zarr was fine. It's like a young adult contemporary. It was fine. I do have to say that The Story of a Girl, though, does give a lot of commentary about how girls are perceived in society and how boys are perceived in society, and how it's a girl's responsibility to be responsible, but boys can go off and do whatever they want. Then there's The Vampire Diaries, The Awakening by L.J. Smith. It was fine, but I'm not going to continue with the series. I'm going to just keep my memories of The Vampire Diaries as the TV show because I loved the TV show. The Lost Boy by Greg Ruth is a graphic novel about a missing boy. And there is a twist in there that you won't expect that was actually really fun. Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell and Faith Erin Hicks. The Girl in the Mirror by Rose Carroll. I actually don't remember a lot about it now that I'm thinking about it. 99 Days by Katie Cotogno. This is about a very unlikable main character who keeps making the same mistakes over and over and over and never learns her lesson. The Betrayal by R.L. Stein. I'm going to stick with Goosebumps by this author. The Girl Before by J.P. Delaney. This was a decent thriller, but the time, you follow a couple different stories and it seems like they kind of repeat the same storyline, and it got Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. It was fine. I really liked the beginning of this book. But you follow like Anne, who is this orphan who goes to Green Gable, and Jane Still by Lindsay Fay. It says that it's a retelling of Jane Eyre, but I feel like this main character just likes Jane Eyre a lot, but she's a serial killer. When All the Girls Have Gone by Jane Ann Kretz. This follows like a private investigator who's tracking down missing women. Small Great Things by Jodi Picoult. This follows this black woman who is getting accused of this crime, and you follow her as she goes through like the court and stuff, but I don't think it was done right because you could clearly tell that it was written by a white woman, and like the woman in the character in the book didn't even know what racism was, and she was like a 30-year-old black woman in America, so it didn't make sense to me. A Whole New World by Liz Braswell was Aladdin retelling. Downworld by Rebecca Phelps. This was a Wattpad book that I got sent to me. I thought it was okay. I kind of wish there was a little more. I was just missing something, but I did have fun with this adventure about like parallel universes. And Majesty by Catherine McGee. This is the second in the American Royals duology. Sadie by Courtney Summers. Everyone knows what Sadie is, so I'm not going to give you a synopsis. Along with The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. Imaginary Girls by Nova Rinsuma. This one gave me the House at the End of the Lane vibes by Neil Gaiman. Shatter Me by Tahara Mafi. Five Total Strangers by Natalie D. Richards was a isolated thriller where there's a road trip with five total strangers. The Statistical Probability of Love at First Sight by Jennifer E. Smith. I should have known Love at First Sight is not my thing. Dogs 24/7. This was honestly just a picture book of dog pictures and little captions, but it was really cute. Renegades, Arch Enemies, and Supernova by Marissa Meyer. I read the whole trilogy this year, and it's a sci-fi fantasy trilogy about revenge and vengeance and secret identities and superheroes. And Suicide Notes from Beautiful Girls. The Art of Racing in the Rain by Garth Stein is told from a dog's perspective. It's supposed to be very hard-hitting. Heaven is for Real by Todd Burpo is a nonfiction about this kid's experience going to heaven for a little while and coming back. Blind Date by R.L. Stein was such a fun read. It was very cheesy and horror. I wasn't scared, but I thought it was cheesy and so cute. I Know You Know by Jilly McMillan. This has some kind of podcast element. It's a thriller. None Shall Sleep by Ellie Marney and The Last Final Girl by Stephen Graham Jones. Follow the last survivors of these like massacres. In None Shall Sleep, they kind of go to the FBI and kind of work for them, even though they're only like 18. And they try and question and see what's going on in the real world from the people who are locked up. It was interesting. I wasn't expecting that one, and I really liked it. Woman on the Edge by Samantha M. Bailey is about this woman who gives you her baby and then she kills herself. The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. Royals by Rachel Hawkins. Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. The Undead Girl Gang by Lily Anderson. So All Your Twisted Secrets by Diane Urbane. This Lie Will Kill You by Chelsea Pitcher. And One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus are all kind of dark academia, murder mysteries, but they're a young adult and they're kind of more on the lighter side. I mean, someone dies in all of them, but they're like more fun. Aristotle and Dante's Secret to Discovering the Universe by Benjamin Elora Sanchez. Yes, Please by Amy Poehler is yet another memoir about a famous person, but I really enjoyed it. The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. I read this book 3 times this year as well. It's kind of become my go-to to get me out of a reading slump, and it's just really, really cute. Hate to love, fake honeymoon type of story, and it takes place in Hawaii. Bunny by Mona Awad. I still cannot tell you what that book is about. It's just weird. Before I Fall by Lauren Oliver was actually a reread for me, but I enjoyed it more this time reading it. It's like this time loop, and this girl has to kind of be stuck in this time loop until she becomes a better person. The Kiss Quotient, The Bride Test by Helen Huang. I loved it. The Kiss Quotient is definitely my favorite, but Helen Huang is autistic, so she writes very good own voices story about autistic rep, and they all are slightly different, but they're companion novels. And in The Kiss Quotient, you follow Stella Lane, who is always going to be my favorite person ever in a book. But she's very awkward, and she's successful in her career, but she's not successful in her relationships. So she hires an escort to kind of fake date her or teach her how to date, and then kind of spirals from there, and it's really fun. Then there's The Last to Die by Kelly Garrett. Pretty Little Wife by Darby Kane is a very twisted, surprising thriller in which the main character, she moved his dead body somewhere, and then it's not there anymore, and she gets these creepy messages, and you wonder, like, is he still alive, or what happened? Even If We Break by Marie Ninchkamp. This had a true identity crisis. It was trying to do like a million things, and it just didn't work. What to Say Next by Julie Buxbaum. This was a very cute YA romance. Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. This was a story in which this kid goes missing, and her mom is later, she's getting into a relationship with this guy, and his daughter looks suspiciously like her daughter did when she was that age, and it's this fun little mystery. I didn't find it surprising or anything, but it was a good time. Sex Object by Jessica Valentini talks about feminism. It's a memoir. It's nonfiction. Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. This was a fine book. I was expecting more, but it's kind of more of a like mystery romance than a horror, which I was thinking it was going to be a historical fiction horror. A Good Idea by Christina Mornarco. This is based on a true story, and it's this young adult thriller. What Beauty There Is by Corey Anderson. Endearment by Samira Ahmed. This was a very hard-hitting book about Muslim Americans in America, and what would happen if we locked them all up after a terrorist attack. And then there's like a rebellion. My favorite Half Night Stand by Christina Lauren was just kind of like an average romance. All These Beautiful Strangers by Elizabeth Califf and The Mary Shelley Club are both secret society books. Once Upon an Edie by S.K. Alley. Paperbacks from Hell by Grady Hendrix. Psycho by Roy Robert Bloch. A Love Song for Liars, and the next one in the series by Piper Lawson. Slay by Brittany Morris, which is like a video game in which this girl created it. No one knows that she created it, which I had to suspend my disbelief, because if I created something like that, I would tell everyone. And then it's something happens out in the real world because of the video game, and now everyone is saying that she is racist and that it's for the black community and white people aren't allowed there. And Here and Gone by Halen Beck. This plays on real life fears of you follow this woman who is trying to leave her abusive husband, and she gets pulled over by the police, and she gets arrested, and they say that she didn't have any kids with her, but she knows that she had her kids with her. And so it's like, do you believe the cops' versions of events, or do you believe hers, and what is going on? And it was very unreliable, and I loved it. Then Mongrels by Stephen Graham Jones. The Return by Rachel Harris. The Merciless by Danielle Vega. I read all of those for this reading vlog that I did, Read It Like Adam Caesar. And these were horror books. They were fine. My favorite was The Merciless. That one actually legitimately scared me. Teen Killers Club and The Deceivers. I read those two close together, so I kind of think that I couldn't really tell you much about the differences, but it's like Con Artist Academy. It's like Con Artist Academy in The Deceivers, and in Teen Killers Club, it's like these felons go to this camp to get trained as assassins. Too Good to Be True was a worse version of The Wife Between Us by Gera Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. Good Girl by Piper Lawson is a musician and fan type of young adult romance. The Photographer by Mary Dixie Carter is a forgettable thriller. I got it as an ARC and I didn't love it. A Girl's Best Friend by Iris Foster. I can't really tell you much about it. It's about this woman who gets kidnapped, and I can't tell you anything about it because it's very, very short. No Love Lost by Rachel Bowder. The Butterfly Jar by Jeff Moss is poetry. Capone by Mark Douglas Brown is a graphic novel about Al Capone. Goosebumps by R.L. Stine, The Girl Who Cried Monster. Saga and Sheets are more graphic novels, along with Smile. Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna McGuire. Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant is about killer mermaids. Head Over Heels by Hannah Ornstern is this gymnastics romance. Felix Ever After by Kaysen Callender. The Girl in the Locked Room by Mary Downing Hahn and Small Spaces by Catherine Arden are both like forgettable middle grades. They're horror middle grade. Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. Unteachable by Leah Rader. The Boyfriend Project by Farrah Rochin. In Holidays by Christina Lauren. This one also has like a time loop part of it. On the Fence, P.S. I Like You by Casey West. I was just reading more Casey West. The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Bad Girl by Piper Lawson. The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. This is like a portal fantasy fairy tale. Always and Forever, Laura Jean. This book should have been a standalone, where it should have just been P.S. I Love You. Or to all the boys I've loved before. The first one. That's all it should have been. This whole series is not good. The Ravens by Cass Morgan and Daniel Page. One of my favorites of the year. It's got murder mystery, dark academia, witchy vibes. The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell. I don't like inheritance thrillers. Survive the Night by Riley Sager. I gave it 3 stars. It was fine. I like the atmospheric part of it. I don't think the main character makes good choices, but you know, it's okay. And then road trip vibes thriller. It was alright. It's not my favorite Riley Sager by far. 6 Years by Harlan Coben just didn't make any sense to me. Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones is my favorite Stephen Graham Jones that I've read. Still Missing by Chevy Stevens. I think I'm over Chevy Stevens, along with All Is Not Forgotten by Wendy Walker. I think I'm done with Wendy Walker as well. Catch Me If You Can by Frank W. Abagnale. This is a nonfiction about his true life as a conman. I enjoyed it. I do really want to see the movie now, though. The Maidens by Alex Michaelides, Greek Mythology, Dark Academia. My Girlfriend's Boyfriend by Aloyda Strain. Just watch the movie. It was a movie first, and you can tell. Interference by Kay Honeyman. This was a coming-of-age young adult romance with a little bit of political undertone, which, if you know me, I don't like political stuff, so that's kind of weird. Long Bright River by Liz Moore. I was actually doing a video, Read It Like Gabby, from Gabby Reads, so I read this for it. I still have a lot of that footage, but I just gave up on that video because of a lot of reasons. This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab is monsters and music. One of Us Is Next by Karen M. McManus was the sequel to One of Us Is Lying. The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware is my favorite Ruth Ware, about a nanny who moves to the smart house to take care of these kids and dark stuff happens. My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. Everything for Us by Michelle Leighton. Apparently this is the third in a companion novel series. It's romance. It's very smutty. The Loneliest Girl in the Universe by Lauren James was a sci-fi thriller in which I really loved. It's isolation. It made me paranoid. It made me panic. I enjoyed it. I reread Lock Every Door by Riley Sager with Heather from Bell's Library, so that was fun. I actually liked it more the second time that I read it than the first time. 4321 by Courtney Stevens. This is about a terrorist attack, and these 5 people survived in New York, and it's a year later, so they're going to meet for the memorial. Curvy girls can't date quarterbacks. Curvy girls can't date billionaires, date cowboys, or date bad boys. I read the first 4 in the series of that. I enjoyed it. It's got, not only does it have the young adult romance aspect, but it also has really good representation of what it's like to be a curvy girl in a world that wants you to be like skin and bones, and some of the characters have health reasons that they're maybe a little bit bigger, and some of them I just really enjoyed learning about their lives, and it was really, really good. I do want to finish that series eventually. Then there's Disney's Who's Who. It's really just pictures of Disney characters and telling you about them. If you're a true Disney fan, then you don't need this because you already know all this information. It doesn't add anything to these characters. How Lucky by Will Litch. It was supposed to be a funny thriller. In Her Bones by Kate Morty. This is a very predictable thriller in which you follow a serial killer's daughter. The Louisville Anthology by Erin Kane. It's an anthology all about Louisville. The Flight Attendant by Chris Bourgeline. This was too political for me. My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. Has way too many movie references. And, like, I'm a horror movie buff. I love horror movies. But it just took me too much out of the story. Symptoms of Being Human by Jeff Garvin. This has great representation. And it might have been my favorite, like, LGBT book that I've read this year. In fact, it was. Then The Perfect Family by Robin Harding. This is a thriller that follows the entire family. There's 4 people in this family. And they all have different stories. So you kind of want to figure out what the true story is. And who's... so they're getting, like, pranked at their house. And you're trying to figure out why. And... when it all connects together and you figure out what's really going on, it's very sinister and very dark. Green Glass House by Kate Milford is a forgettable middle grade, but I've just found that I am not, middle grade isn't for me anymore. Legend by Marie Lu is a dystopian. The Party by Lisa Hall was a really good book about this girl named Rachel who goes to this party with her friends and her husband, and she wakes up in a strange room with no memories of the night before, and her husband's like mad at her, and dark things happen to her at that party. And that one struck me. Shipped by Angie Hockman. It was fine. It's like a fine book, but honestly, The Unhoneymooners is way better. Strangers by Dean Koontz was about this, like, hotel where all these strangers meet. Then I reread Final Girls by Riley Sager with Heather from Bell's Library. Roomies by Christina Lauren is by far my least favorite Christina Lauren book that I've read so far, but don't take my word for it, try it. Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers was this female marriage. They get married in Vegas and then they have to make this relationship work, and I just didn't buy the love story in this romance, so it didn't work for me. Goodnight Beautiful by Amy Malloy. I love the premise, but the execution was not good. You follow this woman who listens in on her husband's therapy sessions because his office is downstairs, and it's supposed to be creepy and weird, and it just didn't work for me. Then Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman is very character driven, and I just didn't really care. Then I read Dorothy Must Die, The Wicked Will Rise, Yellow Brick War, and The End of Oz by Danielle Page, which is the whole quartet of the Dorothy Must Die series, which is a dark take on the Wizard of Oz and what happens to Oz after Dorothy leaves. She obviously comes back, but does she turn evil? Remember Mia by Alexandra Burt is about a missing kid, but it's a thriller and I can't tell you anything about it. Along with Two Can Keep a Secret by Karen McManus. It's a young adult thriller, but I don't remember any of it. Leave the World Behind by Rumen Allman. I appreciate what it was trying to do. It was trying to talk about like racism and things like that, but it just didn't do it very well. The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. This was a really fun fake dating romance. The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. I love the witchy vibes, the small town vibes, but I didn't buy the romance in this contemporary romance. So, Rules for Vanishing by Kate Alice Marshall. It's kind of like the Blair Witch Project in this forest. So in this forest, this road appears one day a year, and this girl's got a lot of her friends, and they're all going to follow that road to get her sister back because her sister went missing a year ago down that road. The Dating Dare by J.C. Lee was just a super cute romance. Hot British Boyfriend by Kristen Boyce. It was very predictable YA romance. And Her Every Fear by Peter Swanson. Tell the Wolves I'm Home by Carol Rifka Burnt. That one I did enjoy. It had really good AIDS commentary, and it took place during the AIDS epidemic, and it talked a lot about what it was like to be gay during that time, and it was a very interesting read. Then there's Smoke, there's Heroin by Mindy McGinnis, Arsenic and Adobo by Mia P. Mansala, Animal Farm by George Orwell, Hairpin Bridge by Taylor Adams, which was super duper disappointing, The Girl with the Lower Back Tattoo, that was by Amy Schumer. It was just another celebrity memoir. We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. I can appreciate it for what it was, and I understand why people really like that book, but for me, it just didn't work. The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna was way too long. Something Happened to Allie Greenleaf by Haley Krishker follows a young adult named Allie who gets raped, and she wonders if it was rape because of the way that it happened. It was really, really good. I would highly recommend that one. My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing is about this couple who kills together. Will they stay together though? The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Pinner. The X Talk is probably one of my favorite romances of the year. So it's about these two people who work at this radio station who have to pretend to be exes, and in order to do that, they kind of banter and like hate to love, and maybe through this X talk, as they're faking exes, maybe they fall in love. And I've never seen a book done like that, where, you know, you have that fake dating trope, but kind of in reverse. It was so cute, though. The Worst Best Man by Mia Sosa. That one was adorable as well. I would actually really like to own both of those. How to Fail at Flirting by Denise Williams. I was expecting like this fluffy romance, and it's really dark. It's a lot more hard-hitting than I ever thought it would be, but you'll remember it. The Killing Woods by Lucy Christopher and The Girl Who Lived. They both have a lot of cliches, and I didn't like The Girl Who Lived at all. Like, it was every cliche in the book. The Killing Woods was kind of more forgettable, but I remember not liking it. 7 Dirty Secrets by Natalie D. Richards was just a fun thriller, like a scavenger hunt. It wasn't super surprising, but I just love Natalie D. Richards' writing. She's very atmospheric, just kind of like Riley Sager. Style of writing, dark, atmospheric, and fun. Nerve by Janine Ryan. I finally finished it, and you know what? It was cute. I still think it's a dark thriller in which you just play this dare game, and it's being broadcast. Honestly, just watch the movie on that one. The Grim Rose Girls by Laura Powell. Room Service by Maureen Stoffels. And then The Midnight Gang by David Williams. I was just expecting too much out of this. It's a middle grade, and I'm just over middle grade. Oh my god, so that was all 243 books that I've read in 2021. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. So we are currently sitting at 1 hour for this video. Oh, editing Alita, you have a lot of work ahead of you.